And while we do that, let's welcome our speaker, Jugo's Chief Customer Officer, Stephen G, who is here to look at how some of the most progressive and exciting brands are unlocking their potential in a hybrid workforce, building powerful connections with their staff and customers. So welcome, Steve. Hello.
Hi, Steph. Nice to see you. Happy Wednesday.
Yes, happy Wednesday indeed. So great to have you here. So, Steve, before I hand over to you, I know we don't have a huge amount of time, so we'll get your slides up. But we did just ask that quick poll. The results are ready. Did you want to take a quick stab at what you think the answer may be before we bring them up?
Well, this is a really educated group. We're talking to HR leaders today, and I think you guys are going to know pretty well the state of engagement in your organization. So I think you're going to be probably somewhere near the middle of that poll in terms of the spike. So let's see.
Absolutely. Yeah, let's bring those up now then, and that'll kind of help guide your presentation. Bring those results up now. We're thinking middle of the road. And you are absolutely spot on. So 47% saying 25 to 50%. 37% saying 50 to 75%, and then 8% at either end. So that's quite nice. That's quite satisfying, actually. So, Steve, I hope this helps with your presentation. Hopefully your slides are up here now, and I'm going to hand over to you. And if we've got time, we'll come back for a quick Q&A.
Thanks, Steph. Yeah, look, so lovely to be here. Lovely to be speaking to you all today. My name's Steve G. As Steph mentioned, I'm the Chief Customer Officer here at Jugo. And what am I here to talk about? Well, I'm here to talk about why the human connection is key to growth in 2023. And so hopefully over the next 7 or 8 minutes, my aim is to help stimulate some thinking about how you work, how you manage, how you lead, and then inspire your teams and businesses over the next few weeks, months, and of course into next year. So I think what we've all experienced over the last couple of years has been transformational. The pandemic brought about changes to every single industry, of course, that exists. Overnight, we all had to pivot to remote work and increased focus on online and managing and communicating with our businesses in this new hybrid world. Now, you could argue that, of course, this was a trend that had started pre-pandemic. Some organizations, of course, operated in a remote or hybrid fashion for a while. But what we did see across all industries was this accelerated shift in working practices, this pace of the shift. And that was the thing that was unprecedented. I think we can absolutely call it a once in a generational shift, and something that you guys on this particular session will know better than anyone. Yeah, that the impact on people has been absolutely massive. And yes, of course, this includes the shift to remote and hybrid work, but wider than that, it's the reassessment by employees of what it means to go to work, what it means to work for your company, what their work-life balance should be, what priorities they have, and in fact, what purpose they even have. Why do they even go to work in the first place? And I think we've seen that over the last couple of years really being reevaluated by all of us. I think we've already heard today themes of the Great Resignation, or my also favourite, quiet quitting, that's out there. But for me, I think I hear this as the Great Disconnection. This is what we've really experienced over the last couple of years. And if you think of retail, for example, over the last couple of years, and in fact, specifically in April 2021, they set new records for staff leaving. 640,000 retail workers in the US quit in 1 month. It's a staggering number of people leaving their jobs. And that's also starting to translate not only into our relationship with our employer, but then also relationships with brands that we have. Let's think of and how those brands bring that purpose to life and the alignment that they have to their employees. Think about the recent Patagonia announcement and how you feel about that organization and that brand, and actually, more excitingly, the impact that had on their sales in the coming weeks that followed. So we've already heard in the sessions this morning that we're all spending our time creating wonderful experiences for our customers and trying to then replicate that into our human experiences for our employees. And while at Jugo, we know that customer experience is important, we absolutely champion this ethos and mantra that employee experience is the key now to growth moving forward for organizations. We saw a recent we saw a poll just before I started talking, and the reason for that poll is that actually a recent global study by Gallup called The State of the Global Workforce. If you haven't read it, please do check it out. It's quite interesting statistics in this area. But in that research of global organizations, hundreds of thousands of staff surveyed, they found that only 21% of employees are actively engaged at work. 21%. I think there was less than 8% of us who voted that as our score. And so there's massive disconnect between what our employees are experiencing in terms of how they are actually feeling about working, and us as leaders, what we believe they are experiencing. I'm sure all of us run employee surveys and the like, but who's filling out those surveys? Of course, it's the more engaged staff. They want to actively tell you how good a job you're doing, or an average job you're doing, because they want you to do better. But what about those people who are ambivalent or don't care? So these unengaged workforce, these unengaged workers have a massive impact on our organizations. And in fact, they go on in the report to calculate that that's a cost to us globally of over $7.5 trillion a year. Yes, $7.5 trillion. That represents about 11% of GDP globally. So there's a huge commercial opportunity to unlocking a more engaged workforce for all of us. The study goes on, of course, to discuss more of the other linked challenges to this great disconnection. Employees leaving, of course, burnout, stress, the impacts on home life or personal relationships. And these can all be tangibly linked to the level of connection and purpose and engagement that people feel within their roles. One that stuck out to me was that unengaged employees are 23% more likely to have a visit to an emergency room. So not only is it impacting the performance of your business, it's actually impacting the lives of the people who work for you in a really meaningful way. So we've done a good job, I think, over the pandemic, starting to deal with that remote shift, moving to those remote environments. And while some organizations, some markets have started to really focus on employee engagement broadly across the globe, and you can tell from the Gallup survey, most organizations are lagging behind and haven't prioritized in perhaps the way they need to this focus on building a whole new way of engaging with your staff and your employees. So the balance of power, we all know, has shifted very much from the employer to the employee. And so we need to really reimagine how we connect our staff to change that tide of disconnection. Of course, we see this dangerous mix of high turnover, low attraction, lack of skills, or having to reskill people. All of this hinges on why your employees are key to the solution. Customers, of course, can't have new experiences if you don't have staff to make that real. So, of course, in lots of organizations, we've seen them do well. The markets perform pretty well over the lockdown and through the pandemic. But actually, only now are we really starting to see the true impact of this in our organizations. And so I ask you, how are you as leaders? How are we as organizations empowering or inspiring our staff? I think in the session before, I loved to listen to that session. It was great listening to you guys talk about the disconnect between leaders and staff and how important it is to bridge that gap, to people to hear from their leaders and peers, or the role of leadership with their direct reports to inspire them and make sure that they're connected to the organizations. But what are we really doing to help them? What are we really doing to help them tackle that employee experience gap that exists around us now every day? Am I unlocking that human potential that exists in my team? But we know this human-centric approach is driving positive economic benefits. I love this quote from Jack Welch up on the screen, but we know organizations that invest most heavily in employee experience are found 11.5 times more likely in the Glassdoor's best places to work, or 4.4 times more often in LinkedIn's most in-demand employers in North America. But that also translates into customer experience. If you heavily invest in employee experience, you're twice as likely to be in the American Customer Satisfaction Index. So we know that it's a really important area. So why isn't business priority for organizations? Well, we hope, and at Jugo, we hope with you guys as well, we can start to change and shift that tide. A human-centric employee experience has to be and is the new battleground, of course, for our organizations. And I think what's key is we've seen over the last few years that shift in the closing of the customer experience gap. Organizations like Uber, Netflix, Amazon, exploiting that gap between what could have been a good and what is now a delightful experience as a customer. And it's over the next few years that we're going to see organizations truly harness the potential of closing that human experience gap that exists in our employees over the next few years. So what about from a HR leader's perspective? In fact, you guys are on the coalface of all of this really exciting innovation that's going to take place. And I think there's a few things that I think are really exciting for HR leaders over the coming year or so. And that's this opportunity to really reimagine what the future of work looks like in your organization. When you have a fundamental shift in how people work, we also have a fundamental opportunity to change how we evaluate what those working practices look like. So I challenge us all to really reimagine what the future of work looks like in our organizations and how we facilitate and enable our staff to be the best that they can very be. Similarly, attracting and developing new talent. That's a huge area for us all, and I know a big headache for some. But it's critical to the success of our organizations, and how we communicate and engage our audiences, not only critical to retaining and developing those skills and really building a successful organization, but then also onboarding and exciting new talent to be part of that space. Thirdly, how are we then transforming that employee experience? What tools are we using? What technology can enable us to really take that to the cutting edge? What we're convinced of here at Jugo is that this employee experience gap can only be closed by better technology and better strategy, better planning, and a better desire from all of us as leaders to close that gap. Of course, we have obviously believe that technology is the answer to this. It's, of course, a topic that's so close to our hearts. We're singularly focused on creating more interactive and immersive environments for companies. So our platform is built to build an engaging conversation in your virtual and hybrid workforce. Many of you may not have heard of us here at Jugo, but we're at the cutting edge of innovation. We're leveraging the next generation of technology, 3D environments, and the very best of cloud technology as we take steps towards the metaverse. So hopefully, over the last few minutes, I've given you 3 things to think about: how you can build a more human-centric strategy to your employee engagement, how you can use technology to really capitalize that, Steph. And then thirdly, hopefully, a desire to come and talk to us at Jugo on how we can unlock that potential for you, like we are for organizations like MasterCard and Allianz. So thanks, Steph. Hopefully that was a short, sharp session, but I'll throw it back to you.
No, it was great. Thank you. And sorry for covering your slides at the end there, the crucial moment. No, that was brilliant. You managed to fit so much in just 10 minutes. Thank you so much, Steve. I'm afraid we don't have any time for any Q&A, but people can reach out to you, of course. They know you now, and I know you would very much welcome that. So thanks for your time today, Steve.
Thanks, Steph. Lovely to see you all.
You too. Cheers. Bye.